Hello and welcome back to No Bullshit. Today we return to talking about Roseanne, whose recent 9-episode revival season just came to a close on Tuesday, continuing to score epic, record-breaking ratings. And needless to say, Roseanne will be back this fall with another new season, but for today, we need to get caught up on the recent episodes. We've already covered Roseanne's triumphant pro-Trump return, going over the themes of this season, which include a lot of cool pro-conservative stuff. We've also gone over the first 4 episodes extensively in follow-up videos. Link to the Roseanne playlist below if you want to catch up. But now, I need to catch up myself, since the season just finished and we still got 5 episodes to cover here. We're going to breeze through a couple of these now, following the stories a bit, and focusing on explaining the politics and references like we usually do. There's a lot to cover today, so let's go ahead and get started with episode 5 called Darlene vs. David. This episode begins with Roseanne and Darlene at the grocery store. After Rose complains about the self-checkout machines making her do all the work, Darlene's kid starts acting up because their estranged father David is returning to visit. Darlene and David's romance was previously a big part of the original Roseanne series. David even became a main character for a couple seasons. But now, David's actor Galecki also stars on CBS's The Big Bang Theory, making his appearance in this revival season of Roseanne a little tougher to manage. Unfortunately, he'll only be able to appear in this episode of the 10th season, and now his character has been out of the picture too, so they've turned David into a deadbeat father who left Darlene to raise their kids alone. And David's character isn't even the only big return this episode. Roseanne's mom also comes back to the family house after getting kicked out of her nursing home for acting up and having too much old people sex, even spreading some STDs including gonorrhea. Gross, but this does line up with stories in the real world about old people living in homes that turn into virtual orgies.
If I watch TV, I play cards, I have an occasional drink, but apparently at my age, I am not supposed to enjoy a healthy sex life. With multiple partners in multiple parts of the facility.
Next, David sneaks into Darlene's childhood room, coming in through the window just like he used to back in the day. And despite being separated, the two end up reigniting their relationship. They hook up, and the next morning when the two awake in their bed, David gets honest about why he abandoned his family to save the world, as Darlene put it. And it had to do with his older brother Mark dying.
When I left you and the kids, I rationalized that it was okay because I was helping people. The truth is, I left because my brother died and I was overwhelmed with all the responsibility and I just ran.
David and Darlene almost get back together too, but by the end of the episode they decide not to, because they do always fight it. It will just come to that again eventually, which is really not healthy for their kids and the family. David takes off, promising to do better and even planning to move back into the neighborhood to be closer to their kids and the family. Meanwhile, the family has a cake eating contest in the house for Harris's birthday, and by the end, Roseanne pretty much accepts that her mom is staying there at the house with them for now. And that about closes things up on episode 5. Not much going on in the way of politics or references really. It mostly just deals with Darlene's broken family trying to get back together, and the kids dealing with that. And of course, there's the return of Roseanne's mother, who also comes back in later episodes. The next episode is called No Country for Old Women, an obvious wordplay on the movie title No Country for Old Men. This one starts with Roseanne and Jackie arguing over who has to take care of their mother now that she's been kicked out of the nursing home. They eventually agree to split their time with her, taking alternating weeks, Roseanne going first. Next, Dan is working on some sketches for his next construction job. His grandson Mark comes in with some interest, asking questions even. Eventually, Dan offers to let the kid help with the birdhouse he has to build, which excites Mark, and Dan decides to let Mark build it himself, probably because he's just happy to see the kid showing interest in something boys like, something manly, instead of the girls' clothes and skirts he usually wears and spends his time focusing on.
Why do birds need houses when they have trees?
I'll do you one better, and this will bend your mind. Why do we cut down trees to make the wood for birdhouses?
Whoa!
Next, the ladies of the family play some cards in the kitchen, with fake cigars and everything. Harris, the granddaughter, goes to take a picture of her winnings, but Roseanne stops her and says no phones. She wants the kid to live in the moment more, instead of always focusing on her device like how 99% of the population does nowadays.
You're missing the magic of the moment here.
I'm not putting mine down. I'm texting with this really hot chick that I met on a dating app. We're 100% personality match. Well, we fight a lot, but I believe the science.
What do you two women even fight about? I want to put the dishes away. No, I want to put the dishes away.
Here we also see some talk about lesbians and other kinds of relationships. Progressive. Things go even further in the conversation into some casual male bashing and mentions of the lesbian and her partner both being tops. Not the kind you spin on a table. Eventually Roseanne and her mother get into a fight, and that leads to Rosie dropping her off at Jackie's house early. Back to the birdhouse story now. Mark finishes his project and gets excited to show his grandpa Dan. Unfortunately though, Mark got a little too creative and flamboyant with it, which displeases Dan since this was a job he needed done a certain way. This leads to him laying out this pretty sweet line about being creative and getting jobs done right.
It was creative, but this was a job. I make up songs in the shower. They're real creative. But if I show up to work naked and singing, they don't pay me. They call the heat.
By the end, Roseanne's mom has moved all around, all over, eventually winding up in Becky's apartment, where she entertains a male visitor. This turns out to be a guest star who is played by comedy legend Christopher Lloyd, famous from the Back to the Future movies and Angels in the Outfield. After Roseanne leaves the scene, Jackie and her mother make up. They decide they need each other more and they're gonna work things out so they can live together and take the burden off of Roseanne, who already has a full house. Not that full house. Mark even rebuilds the birdhouse to Dan's original plans, and things end up pretty happily at the Connor house. Especially for Dan and Roseanne, who no longer have to worry about Roseanne's mother being around. All in all, this was another fun, mostly family-centered episode, which of course is the focus of this series overall. Not much politics or references to go over, besides what I said, and the political issues really seem to have tapered off since the beginning of this season. But don't worry, the next episode picks back up when the Connors find out they have new Muslim neighbors. Episode 7 is called Go Cubs, and we'll find out why later. It begins with Roseanne walking around the front of her house, trying to spy on their new Arab immigrant neighbors.
Did you see the crazy amount of fertilizer they got stacked up near their garage? That's how they make bombs. What if this is a sleeper cell full of terrorists getting ready to blow up our neighborhood?
This really goes to show the level of paranoia some people have out there. Some might say it's justified a bit because of the horrible history of Muslim terrorism, but others might more rationally claim it's a bit overblown, probably coming from the sometimes hyperbolic and lamestream news media, who are known to operate by scaring its aging viewer base with sensationalist journalism. Jackie even goes on to make a jab at a specific news channel.
I'm telling you, this is what people from Iraq and Taliban do. They hide out in neighborhoods like Lanford. Don't you watch the news?
You don't mean the news, you mean Fox News. And
Fox News gets a dig at them here, which is funny and maybe even fair. I would say other news channels are far worse and they also sensationalize stuff too, but that's just me. But it looks like Jackie may have become a victim of her own left-wing race-baiting rhetoric when she turns to her black friend here and asks for some help on this.
there is no Talibanist. Oh, forget it. Jump in here, Anne-Marie.
Oh, because I'm black, I'm the expert on racism?
Oh, geez, I am so sorry. I'm willing to learn from my mistakes.
Well, good.
Next, DJ leaves his black kid with Roseanne while he goes to an appointment at the VA, Veteran Affairs. DJ is a former soldier, and this episode comments on the horrible treatment and terrible lines these vets have to wait through in modern America. Pretty shameful these heroes who put their lives on the line for their country are treated this way when they come home, but that's a harsh reality we have to deal with. Before he goes, DJ reminds Roseanne not to miss his daughter's scheduled Skype call to Afghanistan, where her mother resides as she's still an on-duty soldier there. This comes back later. Next, Dan has a business meeting that goes south. His job falls through as the people who are hiring him decide to go with cheaper labor by hiring illegals. This of course infuriates Dan, but his business partner reminds him that they should use proper terminology in this current PC America.
You're not hiring illegals.
Dan, please say undocumented workers until our tamales get out here.
A great joke on the obvious wordplay with the euphemism undocumented, which the left-wingers try and get people to say over illegals, which is what they actually are. Back to the girls who are staying up late to make that scheduled Skype call to DJ's wife and his daughter's mother, which is supposed to be at 2 a.m. since she's on Afghanistan time. Unfortunately though, the internet at the Connor house goes out just before it's time to make the call. They get desperate and try looking for anyone's Wi-Fi available. That's when they see that their new Muslim neighbors still have Wi-Fi up, so here's them trying to guess what their password is.
Try Death to America.
This is ridiculous. Nope.
Okay, Death to America 1, 2, 3.
This guessing obviously doesn't work, so Roseanne is forced to make an awkward late-night visit to their new neighbors to ask them if they can get their Wi-Fi password in person.
My little granddaughter, she needs to talk to her mother, and it's a whole other time zone and everything because her mom's in Afghanistan.
What does she do in Afghanistan?
Fortunately, their neighbors aren't terrorists, and they're actually nice people who eventually do share their password, which is Go Cubs, hence this episode's title. DJ comes home the next day confessing to Dan that he's been getting therapy at the VA hospital. Unfortunately, this is all too common with former soldiers, who are left with lots of issues after seeing war and being away from home for so long. Later at the grocery, Roseanne sees their Muslim neighbor, the wife, in the checkout in front of her, where the cashier is being super rude and racist to her.
Maybe you can help her carry the groceries out to her camel, too.
Roseanne helps out her new neighbor by dealing with this asshole cashier, and she even lends her some money to pay for the groceries she couldn't afford there. In the end, we see a nice message of anti-racism and bigotry here between Roseanne and her new Muslim neighbors. Sure, she started off paranoid and afraid, but once Roseanne met them and realized they were real people with a family too, things got much better for the neighborhood. Overall, Go Cubs really was a jump back into current events and politics for the show. Between the Arab neighbors, DJ and his VA visit, the illegal workers or undocumented workers, and the Skype call to Afghanistan, there was a lot going on here, and a lot of good humor and fun stories to go along with it. And that about wraps things up on this recap of Roseanne episodes 5, 6, and 7. There's still 2 more episodes this season, but I'm gonna have to break this up into 2 parts. Otherwise, I'll be here all day. So we'll continue this Roseanne Explained series next week, and how soon we do it all depends on you guys. Hit the like button if you want to see more fun-filled, pop culture reference-lated Roseanne videos on No Bullshit here. Hit like, and if we get to say 3,000 likes, I'll go ahead and get that last Roseanne video out ASAP. Until then, what did you guys think about today's episodes? Were you surprised to see David return and promise to be a better father to him and Darlene's kids? And what did you think about Roseanne's mother returning and her sleeping with this guest star, the legendary Christopher Lloyd's character? And finally, what did you think about Roseanne's Arab Neighbors episode? Comment your thoughts on everything below, and thanks for watching No Bullshit. See y'all next time.